In the vast heart of Africa, where the land has always carried the footprints of empires and the blood of resistance, where the soil itself seems to whisper of struggle and hope, begins the story of Samora Moisés Machel. He was born on September 29, 1933, in the village of Chilembane in Gaza Province, Mozambique. He was the son of poor peasant farmers, men and women who worked the earth with their bare hands, only to see the fruits of their labor taken by Portuguese colonial masters who taxed their sweat and claimed their land. From the earliest years of his life, Samora grew up not only with hunger in his stomach, but with a sense of injustice in his heart. He watched colonial officials live in comfort while his family struggled to survive. He saw how Africans were treated as second class in their own homeland, and deep inside him, a fire began to grow. A fire that would one day turn him into one of Africa's greatest revolutionary leaders. As a young man, Samora did not follow the path of politics immediately. Instead, he trained as a nurse, for he believed that healing the sick was a way to serve his people. But in the hospitals of colonial Mozambique, he discovered another face of injustice. African nurses were paid less than Portuguese nurses. African patients were treated with neglect, while white patients were prioritized. It was here, in the quiet corridors of hospitals, that Samora learned how deeply colonialism poisoned every aspect of life. And it was here that his conviction grew, that freedom could not be begged for. It had to be fought for. By the early 1960s, Africa was on fire with independence movements. From Ghana to Algeria, from Guinea to Tanzania, nations were rising against colonial rule. Mozambique too began to stir, and in 1962, the liberation movement Frelimo, Frente de Libertação de Moçambique, was founded in exile in Tanzania by Eduardo Mondlane and others. Samora Machel joined this movement, bringing with him not only discipline and intelligence, but a burning desire for justice. He soon stood out among the fighters, known for his leadership and his ability to inspire. But liberation was not without sacrifice. In 1969, Eduardo Mondlane, the founding leader of Frelimo, was assassinated by a parcel bomb, an act widely believed to have been orchestrated by Portuguese intelligence. The movement stood on the edge of collapse, yet it was Samora who stepped forward to hold it together. He rose to leadership, uniting the fighters, restoring discipline, and declaring that their war was not just against Portuguese soldiers, but against ignorance, poverty, and exploitation. He gave the struggle new meaning. It was not only about removing colonial rulers, but about building a new society. Under his leadership, Frelimo expanded the guerrilla war across northern Mozambique. Villages became strongholds of resistance. Children studied under trees. Clinics were built in the bush. Women were mobilized as equals, taking up arms alongside men and breaking traditions of silence. Portugal responded with brutality. Villages were burned. Communities were bombed. But they could not crush the will of peasants who dreamed of freedom. The fire only spread. Samora also looked outward. He traveled across Africa, securing solidarity from Tanzania, Zambia, and other nations. He built alliances with the Soviet Union, China, and Cuba, who provided weapons, training, and support. And he tied Mozambique's struggle to those of Angola, Zimbabwe, and South Africa, insisting that no African nation could be truly free until all were free. This spirit of Pan-Africanism gave the Mozambican War an international voice. By 1974, history shifted. In Portugal, the dictatorship was overthrown in the Carnation Revolution. The exhausted empire could no longer hold on to its colonies. And on June 25, 1975, Mozambique declared independence. The new nation cheered as Samora Machel was sworn in as its first president. Standing before the people of Maputo, he declared with fire, "For the nation to live, the tribe must die." It was a call for unity above division, socialism above greed, education above ignorance. Mozambique at last was free. But independence was not peace. The new nation inherited poverty, illiteracy, and devastation from centuries of colonial exploitation. And worse, it faced enemies from without. Rhodesia to the west and apartheid South Africa to the south viewed socialist Mozambique as a threat. They could not tolerate a country that supported liberation movements. So they created and armed Renamo, a rebel force that would terrorize Mozambique for years. Renamo burned schools, destroyed hospitals, massacred villages, and plunged the nation into civil war. Samora fought not only on the battlefield, but also on the stage of international politics. He condemned apartheid South Africa as a crime against humanity. He gave sanctuary to the African National Congress and leaders like Oliver Tambo. He insisted that Mozambique's freedom meant nothing if South Africa remained in chains. For this, he was respected by many and hated by apartheid rulers, who saw him as a lion whose roar threatened their survival. The Civil War drained the nation, famine spread, children starved, fields lay empty. Yet even in these dark times, Samora never lost his fire. His speeches remained fierce and defiant. He reminded Mozambicans that independence was not a gift, but a duty. He warned them against tribalism and corruption. He told them again and again, "It is better to die on your feet than to live on your knees." These were not just words, they were his truth. In 1984, under great pressure, he signed the Nkomati Accord with South Africa, promising to stop supporting the ANC in exchange for peace. But he did so reluctantly. He warned that apartheid could not be trusted, and he was right. The violence continued. Mozambique remained under siege. Then came the tragedy. On October 19, 1986, returning from a summit in Zambia, Samora's presidential plane crashed in the mountains of Mbuzini near the South African border. 33 people died with him. The official story was pilot error and navigational confusion, but many believed, and still believe, it was sabotage, that apartheid forces lured the plane off course with false signals, that they assassinated the man they could not silence. Mozambique wept, Africa wept, the world wept. They had lost not only a president, but a symbol of resistance. The Lion of Mozambique was gone. Yet even in death, Samora's legacy did not end. He left behind his widow, Samora Machel, who continued humanitarian work and years later married Nelson Mandela, binding together two of Africa's greatest struggles. He left behind a nation scarred but proud, struggling but unbroken. And he left behind words, ideals, and a spirit that still burns in Mozambique today. His statues rise in Maputo. His speeches echo in classrooms. His story lives in songs of freedom. He is remembered as the boy who herded cattle in Gaza province, the nurse who healed the sick, the guerrilla who led an army, the president who gave a nation dignity, and the martyr who gave his life for the dream of freedom. He is remembered as the lion who roared until his last breath. And so, the story of Samora Machel is not just the story of Mozambique. It is the story of Africa's long march toward justice and dignity. And if you wish to keep walking through the corridors of Africa's past, through tales of betrayal, bravery, sacrifice, and the unbreakable will of a continent, then join us by subscribing to Shadows of Power Africa, where the voices of history live on and the lions of Africa continue to roar.